Hello and welcome back to my craft room and the second part of my contribution to the Inspired by Alice collaboration. If you haven't seen the first part, I would suggest check that out first. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and I will also leave links to all my fellow collaborators so you can go and check out what they've created for this theme. So the theme was inspired by Alice, and in the first part I showed you how I made this lino cut. So this is the lino cut, and I took some prints from it. In this part, what I'm going to do is show you how I added colour. So these were the prints that I ended up with, and then I wanted to try lots of different media to add colour to the prints. There were some unexpected surprises and things didn't go quite according to plan. What I'm going to do now is hand over to myself from a few days ago to show you some snippets of my experiments, which went on for a long time, over several days. Things just don't always go as you want them to. It's still interesting. I've still learned from it and quite enjoyed the process. What I'm going to do is pass over to my previous self now, and then I'll come back at the end and show you how everything turned out and what I think my favourites are. Enjoy. So I had to leave these for several days. This is several days later for the ink to thoroughly dry. I think I must have got it on really thick. It's really, you can feel the texture of it. I think in the end I made about 10 prints until I just got so tired of this business I just couldn't do any more. Mixed results. I'm quite pleased with how scratchy and kind of dark this has turned out. That's what I had in my head, and it got darker and darker as it went on, and I think the colour plate got dirty. But again, I quite like that, and yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to keep a couple of them as they are. This one I tried incorporating some red ink, and I don't think you can really see it on the camera. There was just too much of the black and not enough of the red, and it's just kind of come out this darkish brown, but I quite like the look of it, and it's amazing how different the paper feels when it's printed on as well. I'm going to keep those to the side just as the black and white prints for now, and I'm going to give myself the rest of them to experiment on. So I've got 1, 2, 5. I want to try different ways of adding colour. Now I've hit a bit of an unexpected hiccup. I probably foolishly assumed that although I knew these inks were water based, I assumed that once they were dry they would be like acrylic paint. Once it's dry it doesn't move, but not so. Luckily I decided to just try a little bit, and this is what happens. Then I thought I'd try a fixative. I've got this which is meant to be a workable fixative, and it's one of the biggest, most expensive mistakes. Well, definitely my biggest, most expensive mistake last year, because this cost me about 20 quid, and it falls in great big droplets. I even bought another spray bottle to try and use with it. That didn't work either. It's supposed to be good for soft pastel, pan pastel, oil pastel, chalk, Conte, blah blah blah, pretty much everything. It just went really funny on when I used it on my oil pastel piece, an LEA oil pastel piece. It just kind of set in droplets over the top. Then those droplets came off and took the oil pastel colour away. I don't know if it's something stupid I'm doing wrong, but plus they told you to hold it 18 inches away and do it vertically. Do not recommend this. Oh, very annoying. Anyway, but I thought I'd try it on this because I've got these 2 Duff ones, which were my first prints that they were Duff anyway. I thought I'd have a go at adding a bit of water there and see with a bit of Inktense pencil, just to see if I could kind of control the activation of the ink and use it, and I think I might be able to do that. I am going to do some wet media experiments with this. So these were my Duff ones, my first 2 ones that I didn't ink it up well enough. That one had a mark, took it off, carved a bit more away. This was the really Duff one where I tried putting it through the die cutting machine. But these still might be good for, you know, testing colours on and things like that, so I'm keeping them to my side. Yeah, there's the original drawing. So yeah, where's the fixative one? Where the fixative landed, where it lands in big drops, you can see what's happened there. And it's supposed to be workable, meaning I could use other media over the top of it, was what I was hoping, and one of the reasons I paid such a lot of money for it. But clearly it isn't going to help me. Several things I want to try: Prismacolor, Polychromos, and Posca pencils, so dry pencils I want to use. What I'm most looking forward to, I think, is pan pastels. I want to try that. I think I'm going to try acrylic paint and just try and use it very, very carefully. Or I might go with gouache, so I can make that a bit transparent as well if I want to. I just will have to be very careful. And it might be that it'll be nice to be able to pull a bit of the colour of the ink in to give me some shadow and things. But I just will have to take great care with it. I've also got this lovely set I treated myself to last year and have hardly used, Faber-Castell watercolour pencils. So I think those might be favourite to you because I'll be able to control them. I don't think I could do normal watercolour. What I was hoping I could do was more kind of normal watercolour techniques. I don't think I can because it will get too out of control and I'll just end up with a big black mess and I will be furious with myself after all this work. So I'm thinking I might try the pan pastels first and see how I got on with them. And this is probably going to get to be too long of a video, so I'll just show you kind of a little bit of each of the media I'm using and then come back and show you them all at the end. Well, I will have hopefully shown you at least a couple of successful ones at the beginning of this video. So let's see how we get on. I'm going to just put most of these out of the way and keep one out. I've got my pan pastels and things out. I've got my tools here. These are the, I think they call them soft tools. It's this really, really soft but dense kind of foamy stuff. You can use little makeup applicators and even cotton buds with them as well, but these are lovely to use. These are all replaceable. You can wash them, dry them and use them again, but they do break down relatively quickly actually, I find anyway. It maybe depends on your technique and what surface you're using them on, but this stuff is quite fragile. You can see it starting to break down there and they will split the sides and things, but especially I find it's quite awkward putting them on and off. I've sometimes even tear them before I've even used them, so yeah, but they are lovely to use. I was really lucky. I got a whole, I'll show you in a sec the colours that I've got. All the colours that I got, like half the price they should have been, from someone who was selling them off on eBay and had hardly used them. And she also threw in these tools and those as well. So yeah, I was really lucky. I think what the colouring I'm going to do with this is going to be pretty simple actually. I'm just really, really hoping the pastels will work as I want them to on this. So here's the colours that I've got. These lovely colours. I had to buy these palettes separately. These are extraordinarily expensive for plastic, but I haven't found anything. I experimented with a couple of other ways and they will all stack up like that. But when you're using them, it's just so nice to have this and the lid just snaps over the whole thing. I don't know, I haven't found a better way. It annoys me that you have to pay so much for them because they are just moulded plastic, but hey ho. So I've got this was the portrait set, and then I added in, it's kind of terracotta kind of colour because I love that colour for hair. So I added that in, and I think I added in the black as well probably, and the rest was the portrait set, I think. And I added in a couple, and then there's this one with the reds and oranges. So I could put some of my mediums in there, I suppose, or if I ever get any other colours, I got some space. A couple of these were broken up. The purple was broken up, and what was the other one? One of the others was broken up in the set, but it was so cheap I couldn't complain. I think what I might do is try that blue of the dress first because I think it's a nice simple bit to start on, and I'm just going to practice a little piece. Just put that out of the way a minute. Just practice it on here first. I find I tend to use this more than anything, but I probably should make myself try some of the others really. And you can just clean it off in between with these on a tissue. You can mix the colours either on the piece or on the palette, and then if you need to, you just wipe, like there. I've probably just been mixing some green into the yellow. I can just wipe that off if I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to try just a bit of this blue just as it is, and you can build them up in layers to some extent as well. And of course, because they're dry, they're not going to interfere with that Thinking water-soluble ink. Water-soluble ink was great for clean-up, of course. It makes it for a very easy clean-up, but I just... stupid use. I mean, you know, acrylic paint is water, you know, water clean-up, isn't it? But at least it is permanent once it's set. And I just assumed because it's called ink, it would be. I don't know. I must be stupid. Because this is going over the black as well, so I'm losing the black lines here a bit, but I could put them back in after, I guess, if I want to. You tend to find it's just sort of 3 or 4 swipes of the tool and then dip back in again. Oh, and you can lift them with a putty rubber as well. So yeah, you can see it picks up almost completely. So if I wanted to, I could now blend in a bit of this. What you can't do is get light over dark. Once you've darkened it, you can't put a lighter colour over the top. So if I tried to put, say I tried to put some white now over the top of this, well, actually it's, I mean, it's lightening it, but I don't know, actually better than I thought it was going to. Maybe I just wasn't very successful before. It's not going to come a bright white, but obviously, yeah, I can do it a little bit. So that's going to work okay. And I'm kind of thinking that this area is going to be red, because, you know, those kind of Victorian hallways were often painted red, weren't they? And I'm thinking mix a bit of this in with it for... It's probably enough playing around. See, I'm definitely going to lose the black lines. It goes over the black, but I think that's okay. I'll have to get some fixative because I'll want to fix this as well. I'll have to splurge. I've been sort of banning myself from any more art supplies at the moment, but fixative's more of a staple though, isn't it? Yeah, I could, if I wanted to with these palettes, I could make up a palette. I could lift these out and make up a palette just for this particular project, but I'm just being lazy. I'm making it more difficult for myself. So I will probably want a little bit of these as well, and I've got a white in there, but I will probably want... Actually, that's a different white, isn't it? That's a much whiter white than that one. I probably want a little bit of the grey as well. I'm trying to get my head over it and I can't because of the camera. The light is in the way. Funny, isn't it, how we still talk about, you know, about an Alice band. That must be where, because Alice in the illustrations always has that kind of headband on. That must be why it ended up being called that. And I've heard a blue described as Alice Blue as well. I might make the little door green as well, actually. The best surface to work on with these, far and away the best surface to work on, they work so much better on it, is pastel matte paper, which feels like a really, really, really fine grit sandpaper. It's very expensive, but they work on that better than anything else. Excuse, my neighbour's dog is at it again. Can't decide if I mind about the losing the darkness of the lines. I think there's much I can do about it if I do mind, so I can to some extent bring them back with my putty rubber. Maybe it's nice that they end up softer though. Okay, so I'm going to carry on and colour the rest of this now with my head over it. And then I'll come back and show you when I'm ready, how it turns out, and when I'm ready to start the next one. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself now. It hasn't come out quite as I wanted it, but it was fun to do. I ended up using some pastel pencils to finish off the smaller details. I think what I don't like is that I've lost the lino cut look. So it makes me think, why did I bother doing a lino cut? But I suppose I've got 8 copies, so I'm not entirely happy with it, but it was really interesting to do. I enjoyed using my pan pastels, and I did use some pastel pencils to finish off and get some details. Anyway, I'm going to move to one side with it. This is just the first experiment. Next one is colour pencils, so I'm going to get another copy now. So I've got a kind of a similar similar pastel ones, kind of a similar colour scheme, really fairly traditional colour scheme. I'm going to go again. I will speed through a little bit of this process, and then I've got one more to try for you, I think, and you probably have had enough by then. You've probably had enough already. So at least with these coloured pencils I can go in between the lino printed lines and preserve them. This mixed media paper that I printed them on is, well, this is why I chose it, because it's lovely for using pencils on. It's also good for wet media and pastels. Not the best thing with those pan pastels, but it's pretty good. That's just going to be a bit more time consuming. The pan pastels add a lot of colour very quickly, so this will take more time. But such a shame that it isn't that it's water reactive, because of the kind of because of how raised it is on the paper. It would have been lovely to just kind of flood the little areas with watercolour paint. Okay, right, I'm going to go quiet now, listen to the audiobook again, and I'll see you in a minute. Right, this is my finished colour pencil version. Not sure how I'm feeling about this. It's not coming out how I wanted. I'm quite enjoying the experiment, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do one more. I ended up with this, using this with the colour pencils, because I was finding them quite hard work, because this paper was quite textured. I was getting too much of the white paper showing through, and it was really quite hard work trying to and time consuming trying to get rid of that. So I tried this Derwent blender pen that we got in last month's scrawler box to go with the Derwent colour pencils, and that did help to sort of blend everything out and not have like white bits showing through. Like, so there, if you look close up you can still see. I need to do a bit more work on it, but I'm running out of time now. Yeah, and it did work to do that, but it's kind of, in the course of doing that, you can see it's kind of mashed up the tip quite badly. It's stained it to the point where I kept scribbling it off on this to try and clean it, but it's difficult to get it to come clean now, and also it's drying up. So it did kind of work. I bet it didn't last very long, just out of interest. So last one I'm going to try is Inktense. So let's use this one with the Inktense. Oh, and the other interesting thing I meant to mention, using this is an alcohol based blender, this blender pen. Interestingly, although water activates this ink, the alcohol didn't, which I found quite surprising, but probably useful to know. I've got a brush and some water, and I'm going to keep that fairly simple colour scheme again. Let's just use one of the thing about Inktense is it's so different once you activate it with water. And of course what's going to happen is the water will also activate the ink that I've laid down. But if I'm careful, I can use that to give me some shading at the edges. I think this might turn out to be the one I like the best. I do like Inktense pencils. Okay, so I think that one, which is sea blue, is a good one for her dress, and I'm just going to have that one blue. So I've got the blue for a dress. I've got this Shiraz, which I'm thinking for the background. Beach green for the bottle, a neutral grey in case I want some shadows, and then I've got these for, whoop, might want a slightly deeper red for her lips, but we'll see. I'll see if I can keep it to this. So I've got a tan, a Sicilian yellow, and a carmine pink for the sort of skin tones. Just realised I need something for hair. Okay, I've got dark chocolate for her hair, and I want a more reddish one as well. Red oxide. Okay, so that'll do for hair. So that's the colours I'm thinking. But I've just remembered what I meant to do. So it's been a long process. Is use these Faber-Castell, the Albert Dürer watercolours. Let me just try one on here just to see what it's like, and that'll help me decide which I want to do. Okay, so I've got two choices. I can go Inktense. I could do both. If it works well, they'll be quite quick, and it might be an interesting comparison. So I'll leave those Inktense ones out that I've pulled out. Maybe I will have to do two more then, and compare the Inktense with the Albert Dürer. I'm going to go and get another thing, and I'm going to try and do them both at the same time. Okay. This is going to be Albert Dürer side, this is going to be Inktense side. So the first thing I need to do is just kind of go over the areas and just scribble lightly with the pencils and then activate them. That will take me quite a while, and I will probably just gloss over that because it's literally me colouring in these areas. Right, so I'm just quite lightly, you can see quite a light, let's try and get the camera to focus on it, coat, quite a light layer of the pencils here. So I'm going to go over the whole thing, give myself that light coat, and I'll come back and show you when it's time to start activating, because I just think this video must be going on forever already. Right, so I finished putting a light layer of Inktense over there. I've blended a couple of colours together here and there, and believe me, once I get water on this, it's going to look a lot more vivid. I think I'm going to start with the lighter areas, the skin tones, and then the dress, and then go to the deeper, go to the green, and then the background, and then finally the sort of dark grey and black areas. And of course I've got to bear in mind that the water is also going to activate that ink underneath, so I've got to be really careful, and I will just show you a really small bit of this and then flick to the end, because dread to think how long this video must be getting. I've done it in so many little clips. Okay. I've mixed together what is it, Sicilian yellow and carmine pink very lightly over these areas so that they blend together with the water. mainly because of the fact that this printing ink is water reactive. I'm just not able to do what I wanted to do with this, so I'm giving up on this one now. Yeah, as soon as water gets anywhere near this ink, it starts to activate, and it's on the paper quite thick, so there's lots of pigment there. And I wanted it to be quite dark. I didn't want a pretty Alice. I wanted quite a nightmarish dark version of Alice, so yeah, I wanted it to be, but I can't. I don't know, I'm just really frustrated at the moment. So I'm going to put this one to one side. I'm going to use these watercolour pencils that I've pulled out, but I'm not going to do it on this because it's going to be the same problem. I'm going to do it on this instead. So this is my original, and this is a bit too pretty. Okay, so first thing I'll probably do is just run a kneaded eraser over this a bit, lift off some of this graphite. The sketch wasn't intended to be used in this way. Right, I think what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to use a fine liner micron pen, I think, and just go over these lines first and then properly rub out the graphite, because otherwise that's just going to be a pain. Right, so I have finished with this one, I think, and I think I've exhausted this particular avenue at the moment. I'm feeling, to be honest, a little bit despondent about it. So this one was with the watercolour pencils, and then I finished off with some normal colour pencils as well. It's okay, but and then here are some of the prints I've got left. And then there's a few duff ones as well, but these are still the prints that I've got left, which I maybe just should have left as they were. I don't know. I've basically spent a whole day on doing the prints and another day on adding colour in different ways, and I feel like I've wasted a couple of days, but really it's never a waste if you're experimenting. This one is awful. Well, in some ways it's got more of the sort of nightmarish quality I was going for, but it's because, and this like sums up why this didn't work as I wanted it to, because I wanted to use watercolour or gouache or whatever on it, and of course once I realised that I couldn't use any wet media with this ink, it scuppered my plans. So yeah, In some ways that's probably the best one, but it's just a bit boring and too pretty. It's not what I wanted at all. Okay, so I just thought out of interest I would show you this. I've come back. I was here till midnight last night carving out more of my original lino plate, and I thought I'll try it with some of this acrylic ink that came in the Artful screen printing set. It wasn't quite the same texture. It's not as sticky feeling. It's just sort of wetter, but I thought, well, surely it'll work, and it'll be acrylic and I'll be able to use wet media over it to colour it. And I did the usual, rubbed all over, went to peel it off, and look at this. So don't try lino printing with screen printing ink. I just thought I'd share that with you. So now I'm going to have to do a big old clean up here, hope that I can get all of this off and try again. I think this project is doomed to failure. I'm really fed up now. See you in a minute. So I have come to the end of the first chapter of my Inspired by Alice adventure. I think you'll agree that there were some struggles. It took a few unexpected turns, but I learned a lot from it, and the process was still fun to do. So let's have a look at what I've ended up with, and then I can move on to chapter 2, the Mad Hatter. Funnily enough, the chapter that inspired this, that includes this particular scene that I've been illustrating with this project, is called Pool of Tears. So after she's grown really huge, she's crying because she's upset, and of course she's so huge that her tears create this pool that she ends up nearly drowning in. So yes, ironic or coincidental. Anyway, let's have a look, and then I can crack on with the next thing. So this is the first print. Then these were my efforts at adding colour to that print. So this was the pastels. I don't know what to say really. This was the coloured pencils with and then using the blender pen. Yeah. And this was the disaster. This is the Inktense pencils. I just activated too much of that printer ink. Then I carved out some more of the block. This is how the block looks now. I've carved more of it away to leave finer lines, less business, and make it so that both the legs, because before I had it so that one of the legs had a lot of scratchy marks still and the other one didn't, so they're both kind of more similar now. So this was how that turned out printed. You can see it's a lot lighter, and that was partly I wanted to see if if I could improve on some of the shapes. I improved on that. I recarved the foot as well. I don't know which I prefer actually. I think just as a print I probably prefer this. It's more interesting and more kind of nightmarish, but in terms of adding colour to it, this is probably better. So I just had one go at doing that, and this was using the Faber-Castell Albert Dürer watercolour pencils, which were lovely to use. But again, of course, you've got this thing where you get water anywhere near the ink and it's going to activate. I tried to use that quality, and I've deliberately activated it at the edges here to add some shading, but it was frustrating how it kept mixing in here, and when I just dropped a bit of water here it moved. I don't know, maybe I was just ignorant to be so surprised that this ink was so water reactive. I thought you could use acrylic paint with lino cut, so I might try it with a small piece. It might just be that acrylic screen printing ink is different. It was more like a blooming glue. So I might try one of my other little small lino things, experiment with acrylic paint and see what that does. But yeah, what are my favourite ones? So there's the two prints. Oh, and this one was where I just used watercolour pencil and normal colour pencils to colour the original illustration. Probably the better ones are those. That with the pan pastel. I like the effect of the pan pastels. It was just I don't know, they're all different. I can't decide which really. What I will say is that I had some very, very weird dreams last night, and they did involve being trapped in strange places and being too big or too small, and yeah. Anyway, so that is that's the first chapter of my Inspired by Alice collaboration. I'm now later today I'm going to start on my second one. So what I'm going to do is I will keep for the next couple of weeks, I will carry on checking the hashtags. So remember, if you post anything inspired by this theme, use the hashtag Inspired by Art Collab, and I will keep checking Facebook and Instagram. The hashtag doesn't seem to work so well on YouTube, so maybe if you post anything on YouTube inspired by this, tag me. Actually use my Arty Farty Alley tag so to make sure that I see it. In a couple of weeks time I will round everything up and do a little kind of showcase gallery kind of thing of all of the collaborators' pieces and all of, you know, anybody who's joined in, and we'll showcase them all, and that'll be fun because I really enjoyed doing that last time. Okay, that's it, enough waffle on. I'm going to tidy up here because I made a terrible mess, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. I'm late. If I haven't already said, I'm sure I have, of course I will put all of my fellow collaborators' links in the description box below here, so do make sure and check out all of their creations as well. I'm sure they're going to come up with such a mixed bunch. There's going to be lots of weird and wonderful projects for this collaboration, I'm sure, and I can't wait to see them. Okay, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.